Welcome back to the Parent and School Partnership. So today's video is going to be a continuation of our series, The College Search Process. So in our first video, which I'm going to link right here, we talked about what your child should be doing and how you can come alongside them during the 9th and 10th grade years. So this video, we're going to center on the 11th and 12th grade years. And these are the years that the whole college search process really ramps up. And you really have a vital role in helping your child along these years. So we are going to go ahead again and talk to Bob Brennan, who is our school counselor, and Susan Hawthorne, who is our assistant college counselor. And we asked them a bunch of questions all about the college search process. So our first question to them is, what role does you as the parent have in helping your child with this whole college search process?
Yeah, I think that's a good time to 11th grade or maybe even a little bit in 10th grade, start talking about the kind of colleges that they might be interested in. One thing that I think as parents we need to remember is we get very invested in this process, and sometimes too much. And I remember with my own daughter, I was constantly asking her questions. I was doing research. I would tell her very excitedly what I had found out about this college or that college. And she was just getting overwhelmed. Students can get overwhelmed with this whole process. And somebody had given me the good advice to maybe make a pact that you would only talk about college once a week so the child doesn't get overwhelmed. So parents also need to step back a little bit. And while they need to have a lot of good discussions with their child, their child really needs to drive the bus on the type of college that they are interested in.
So now it's time to start narrowing down this process to some specific colleges. How do you get started in that process of narrowing them down?
America is the land of opportunity and multiple choices. And so our students, we have a search engine that we direct them to, and it takes them through all these questions. Do you want it to be public or private, or religious or not religious? Do you want it to be big or small? Do you want it to be expensive or cheap? Do you want it to be in a big city or out in the country? And then what majors, and do they have sports, and do they have intramurals, and do you live on campus or you have to live off campus? There's so many factors. And these search engines you can do multiple times. So you put in all the information and it spits out colleges that kind of match your preferences. You can do it with your child there, or you can do it individually, and then you can go back and change something and see what happens.
What search engines are there to help you with this process?
We use Naviance, and it's called Supermatch. Okay. But there are search engines online that you can use as well. Peterson's has one, and College Board has one, and there are a number like that.
What types of higher education possibilities are out there after high school?
Some are four-year colleges, and you've got your two-year colleges, what we used to call junior college, now it's community college. You have the gap year thing. When I began my career many years ago, I always advised against gap year because I was afraid students would get a job and start making money and have a car, and life was good and they could live at home for free, and why should I go to college? Now we have gap year programs where you actually go to a program and you get a lot of intense training and helping you focus and make college decisions, and so it's a much better possibility than it used to be.
So how much influence do you have, or should you have, in helping your child choose a college?
The parent is paying, and that's typically the leverage that the parent has. And yet at the same time, we've been training up our children to become more and more independent. That's what we want. We want them to be able to move out and live in a college dorm when they graduate high school. Want them to be prepared to handle finances, prepared to handle their life, no longer need mom and dad saying curfew or this or that rule. And so we're preparing them to be independent. So that would include the college choice process, that you want them to be fully invested in that. And then if parents have these kinds of limitations, like it has to be driving distance, or it can't be it can't be a connecting flight, it has to be a direct flight from where we live to where the college is. These are the types of things that really going to be based on the relationship you've built with your child so that you can reach a decision together. I have some students who want to stay and live at home and go to a college nearby, and other students that want to get as far away from their parents as they can. And that is just part of the growing up process and stretching their wings. Sometimes they go off and come back home to the nest. So this I'm going through, and just recently I've gone through this whole process with my children. The process of becoming independent is not a quick that happens the day you graduate. It's a very gradual, step by step, a couple steps forward and a couple steps back, and eventually, God willing, they are able to be totally independent of their parents. But it takes time, and it's not easy for the parents to let go.
After you have done a bit of narrowing down, what is the next step that you and your child should make?
Even after you've gone through that search engine and all those different criteria we talked about, you're still going to have a fairly lengthy list of colleges that match your wishes. And so looking at what majors that college offers, you're looking for the majors, obviously, that you're interested in, majors in that field, and then you can do some research to even find out what schools are known for doing well in particular fields and producing graduates that do well in that career, that get jobs right after graduation. That's one of the big statistics is after graduation, X% of our students are employed or have gone on to get master's degrees, things like that. So you can find that information fairly easily online as well. We're thankful for the internet. But looking at majors will help narrow down your choices some.
When you know a particular field that your student is in, of course, as Bob said, you want to find a college that is well known for having a good reputation in that field. But at the same time, you want to make sure that there are other options for the student, because as we know, many times students change their majors. And so if you've just gone to that school solely for that major and that's it, you might not still be happy there when you change your major.
Not terribly unusual for students to transfer colleges. That happens more and more. Some students will just start out undecided and go into college as an undecided major, and then it's helpful if it's a school that has a variety of good programs, be helped to figure out what major you eventually want.
Are there other things that need to be considered besides academics?
So I think one important thing to remember about this whole college search process is this place is going to be home for your child for 4 years. It needs to be a place where they feel like they fit in more than just the academic part. There's a social part, the friendships, I think we've already mentioned that. And then there's also extracurricular things they do for entertainment. If they compete in intercollegiate athletics, obviously there's a whole contacting coaches and getting scholarships and all that. But many of us won't go off to college and we want to be involved in intramural type sports, or where there's club sports, things like that. So you check into those kind of things. The fine arts, maybe the school has a great fine arts program, choirs and bands and theater. Maybe you just like to be spectator in the audience, or maybe you like to participate in those kinds of things. Finding out how hard or how easy is it to get onto a drama team or in a club that would put on them. Those are kinds of things that you would check into that are the peripheral pieces, but will make it feel a little more like home.
During the 11th grade specifically, but some into the 12th grade, your child will be taking the SAT or ACT. Is one better than the other?
Well, they're getting so similar now. The way they score now, and the timing is very similar. ACT just made a change that's going to be coming out next spring, where you can actually retake just portions of the ACT. So instead of having, if you didn't do as well on your math and you want to try again, historically it's been you have to take the whole exam again and hope that your math score increases. And ACT is making a change, so now you can just retake the math portion. So that's a nice option for students who kind of get intimidated about having to retake the entire test again.
Should you hire a tutor to help your child with the SAT or the ACT?
Take both tests, ACT and SAT, or at least take practice tests of both. If you work hard in school, study hard, do all the assignments your teachers ask you to do, that you don't need to really prepare for these tests. You just get a good education and practice the tests themselves a few times and then go in and take it. Typically, even if you just retake it a second time, your score will go up without any additional tutoring or preparation. We do have a way to link your results with Khan Academy or other sources like that where you can practice some of your weaknesses. I don't normally push students to study for the test or get tutoring, but not everybody agrees with me.
So clearly Bob does not think you need a tutor, but Susan has a different approach.
Well, sometimes your student wants to get into a competitive school, a very competitive school, and maybe their scores just don't quite hit that mark to be considered. So sometimes you need that tutoring. And when you're looking at tutoring, one of the main things is it usually takes about 8 weeks of classes. And so that's another thing when you're talking about timing of the test. If you want to take that March SAT or ACT, for example, you want to schedule your tutoring to start in January because it'll be like 8 weeks of practice and tutoring, and then 9th week you take the exam. So that's another thing to consider when you're talking about timing of the exam. If you're kind of planning, well, maybe I'll take the exam in March, but then I want to do tutoring, but then you don't think about those things until February. Well, if you still really want to take that tutoring, now you're going to have to take your exam in June because it takes about 8 weeks to prepare for that exam.
So if you are going to get a tutor, you need to factor in that cost. How much does a tutor cost?
Well, I think it varies, but I would guess if you're taking one of the popular courses like Kaplan or Princeton, it could be about $600 for group. And then if you're doing private or semi-private tutoring, that could run you $1,000 or more. So it's not cheap to do tutoring, but sometimes also people are trying to get a particular score so they can qualify for scholarships.
Yes.
So in that case, you're getting your money back for that investment.
So that's just some of the things that your child will be dealing with, and you as you support them through the 11th and 12th grade year. If you have any questions about the things that we covered today, please don't hesitate to comment below and we will be sure to get back to you on those questions. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't so you know when we've posted the next follow-up videos after this one, and we will see you in the next one. God bless.